everyone. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. That's right. I am your host, Wilson Phillips, and I thank you for holding on for one more day. Tonight, we're going to talk about the show The Bad Batch. That'll be our main topic for the evening. But it turns out there is a boat ton of news from today. It had been pretty slow news day, so it's nice to go through and find just a lot of stuff to talk about. So we're going to get into that, but just wanted to talk about next week, which will be our second week on the air, and how we're scheduled to have our first guest, which will be Alan and Jillian Porter. And they have created this tome that I have here in my hand, which is the James Bond Lexicon, the unofficial guide to the world of 007 in movies, novels, and comics. So this is just an absolute anchor. I mean, you could kill somebody with this book, obviously, and it's a paperback cover, not a hardcover. Couldn't imagine the hardcover and the poor mailman having to deliver that. But they'll be on Wednesday on our 2 o'clock show on Wednesday, and we'll be talking about that, what their opinion is on the latest Bonds, who they think might be the next James Bond, and their thoughts on the comics published by Dynamite. So looking forward to talking to Alan and Jillian. And so please tune in on Wednesday for that. And let's get to the news, all right? We're going to start off with, it's going to be probably my news topic every day for the next few weeks. Rian Johnson has added another actor to the upcoming Knives Out sequel, the next, the Untitled Benoit Blanc sequel. They still need to give us a damn title, so until they do that, I'm just going to keep calling it everything I can think of. But they're adding Catherine Hahn. Yes, it was Agatha all along. She's going to be joining the film that already has Daniel Craig returning as Blanc and has added Dave Bautista, Edward Norton, and Janelle Monáe. So this is already growing into quite the cast, which, of course, the first movie was. The first movie had Don Johnson and Michael Shannon and Chris Evans and just on, Christopher Plummer, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, it was quite the film. And again, we're getting that again. And Johnson definitely seems to be following the Agatha Christie movie format, which they've done a lot of years. We recently got the Death on the Nile, or not Death on the Nile, that's the next one, Murder on the Orient Express. It had a bunch of big actors in it. But that's what they did back in the 70s with those same films. So it's interesting to see Rian Johnson following that path and how celebrated he is for it as compared to people's reaction to his Star Wars film. I am absolutely looking forward to the next Blanc sequel or Blanc film. I am curious about it being on Netflix because Netflix literally backed up a dump truck full of money. I mean, they pulled up with $450 million and went, we'd like the next two. And they went, you got it. Because that's what we would have said. Wouldn't you have said that? I mean, $450 million, I would have said it. And, but I don't know how that'll do, if they'll give it a theatrical release, which I hope it does. I love seeing these films on the big screen. So I'm hoping it'll get a theatrical release, but we'll see how that works out. I'm still waiting for Death on the Nile, which has been delayed and delayed and delayed because of the pandemic, but also because there's some weird news out there about Armie Hammer, who's in the film, and it's a kind of a hard role to recast, especially when you've got Letitia Wright and Gal Gadot and all these other big named actors in it. You can't just go, hey, everybody come back so we can shoot around the Armie Hammer because he got himself in trouble. So we'll see how that pans out. I'm literally looking forward to that because Kenneth Branagh back as Hercule Poirot, and I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan. I love that character, and I love Branagh's take on it. So hopefully they'll get that worked out. Now, sticking with famous detectives, Netflix announced today that they are moving forward on a sequel to Enola Holmes. That was the film with Millie Bobby Brown as the younger sister of Sherlock Holmes and Mycroft Holmes. In it, of course, Henry Cavill played Sherlock, And both of them, Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill, are set to return. Also, the director of the first film, Harry Bradbeer, will be back, as well as the writer, Jack Thorne. So they're just kind of moving along going, okay, let's do it again, which I am absolutely happy with. I was surprised how much I liked that movie. I was worried that they were basically going to make it a carbon copy of a Sherlock Holmes, just with the younger female lead, and that's not the case at all. They spent a lot of time creating her character, giving her unique aspects that Mycroft and Sherlock don't have. Plus, they gave us a slightly different side of Sherlock. Now, is it as accurate as, the Arthur Conan Doyle books? No. He doesn't have a sister. He doesn't have that kind of relationship, but the potential to have that kind of relationship is there. So we will see how they do it with the next one, and I'm looking forward to that. Also released today was some of the first footage, images for the Kevin Smith-helmed Masters of the Universe Revelation, and a release date. That's going to be out on July 23rd. You've got a voice cast that includes Mark Hamill as Skeletor, because being the quintessential bad guy with the Joker isn't enough. He gets to now claim Skeletor. But Alan Oppenheimer is still going to be Skeletor in my mind, but I'm looking forward to see what Hamill does. Chris Wood, who we saw for many years on Supergirl as Mon-El, will be the voice of Prince Adams / He-Man. Buffy herself, Sarah Michelle Gellar, will be Tila, and Lena Headey from Game of Thrones and the Dredd movie will be playing Evil Lynn. So it sounds like they've got quite the cast, a lot of big-name voice actors, Kevin Conroy, Phil LaMarr, stuff like that. I believe Alan Oppenheimer is coming back to play a different role. So we'll see. We'll be seeing that at the end of July. I know Kevin Smith is pretty hyped about it. He talks about it on his podcast quite a bit. He's had the music for it debut there and a few other things. So looking forward to getting some new He-Man. I've seen the artwork on it, and I like it. I like it a lot. Lately, we get these new takes on some of these classic cartoons from when we were kids, and the artwork is just so different and so extreme in a lot of ways that it's hard, at least in my mind, to equate the two, where this footage, this art feels like He-Man to me. It is different, but not so much that it doesn't feel like the same property to me. So I'm really looking forward to that. Moving on to Marvel, Martin Freeman talked to late night host James Corden about the upcoming Black Panther Wakanda Forever film. And he talks about how he had a Zoom call with Ryan Coogler back in probably about March. He gave some vague number of weeks, so I railed it into about March. And Coogler took him meticulously through all the story beats for Martin's character of Everett Ross. And I guess it sounded, as Martin described it, very odd, some of them, and it showed on his face. So Coogler would stop every once in a while and go, no, stay with me on this. It's going to work out. So it sounds like it could be quite a crazy film. Freeman says that he thinks people are going to be in for a real treat. He thought originally he thought maybe the franchise was going to end when Boseman passed, because how do you keep going on without the main character? And he said that Marvel shortly after, not immediately, but shortly after, reached out and said, look, we are all devastated by this, but we want to keep going with this franchise. And, this is how, and how they were going to do it. And Martin stayed on board and stuff like that. So he thinks that, he hopes that they're going to do the first movie justice. They'll do justice to Chadwick's legacy and make another good film. So he was very straightforward about that. He's not one to hype. You see a lot of actors go on the air and they will talk up everything. Oh my God, this is great. This is awesome, whatever. And he is much more honest. He's much more going to give it to you straight. And it came across like he was a little worried in the beginning that they were just going to either pull the plug or that they should pull the plug. But he looks like he's swung around and is on board now. And that makes me feel better because, like I said, he's very honest in his interviews and stuff, and he'll skip and not answer something if he can't. But when he does answer, you are getting pretty much straightforward what he thinks. Other big news with television, the CW network, home of Arrowverse, Riverdale, and the new Walker, Texas Ranger, it's going to be expanding its broadcast hours. Now, up until 2018, it was Monday through Friday, 2 hours a night. In 2018, they expanded to Sunday nights, where they introduced Batwoman, and they moved Supergirl to combine with it. And then they were doing 6 nights a week. Well, that doesn't give me a starting date, but they're going to be expanding to 7 days a week, as they are going to be having original programming from 8 to 10 on Saturday nights coming up this fall. And so that's going to be a full 7 days a week, which is something they'd never done as the CW, and something they never did when they were separate entities, which was the WB and the UPN. So going to get 7 days a week, which means that there's more room for more Arrowverse shows. Just saying. I mean, we can get a few more on there. I mean, they've ended some, so we need more, right? Question TV series, Saturday night, 9 p.m. Saturday night, The Question. That would be awesome. I'm all for that. And if you guys need a writer. Okay, moving on to movies. Disney confirmed today in a call to discuss the second quarter earnings that their plans for returning to the theater-only window are still intact. Now, we know Cruella and Marvel's Black Widow and the Matt Damon, Emily Blunt film, not Matt Damon. Wow. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. How do you confuse those two? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emily Blunt film Jungle Cruise. They're all going to go ahead with the day and date release on Disney Plus. So they'll be in theater and on the Disney Plus for a premium charge at the same time. But after that, starting about April, I think August 13th is the release for this one. But Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds movie, where he plays an NPC that gains sentience, and Shang-Chi, and The Legend of the Ten Rings are both scheduled to be theatrical only and get a 45-day window of theatrical release. So that's a good sign that Disney's pretty confident that by August we're going to be fully able to be back in the theaters. Now, after that, Disney's also kind of celebrating because The Falcon and the Winter Soldier took the top spot on the Nielsen streaming ratings for the week of April 12th through the 18th. A whopping 855 million minutes were viewed. Only the second time that Disney has topped the charts that are normally dominated by Netflix. Now, the other time was when Soul came out. So that was a movie. This is the first time one of their series has actually done it. So more so than WandaVision, more so than The Mandalorian, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier got the attention of the fans. And this was the 5th episode. So right after Cap did his, everybody was back for episode 5. And the boat montage. I love the boat montage. Well, that's so the 6th episode we haven't got the numbers for that yet. And there's a good chance that that's going to be much, huge. They're going to be even bigger numbers. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But there's a good chance that Disney Plus will be leading for those 2 weeks. And that is a first, because up until now, it's been all Netflix. Also, having to do with Netflix, Variety is reporting that Netflix will be releasing a CG animated feature film of Ultraman. Now, this film will be separate from the ongoing Netflix series because that won't be confusing at all. And it will be directed by Shannon Tyndall of Coraline and John Aoshima of DuckTales. And the film will follow Ken Sato, a superstar baseball player who returns to Japan to become the latest hero to carry the mantle of Ultraman. His plans go awry, however, when he is compelled to raise a newborn kaiju monster, the offspring of his greatest enemy, as his own child. Sato will also have to contend with his relationship with his estranged father and the schemes of the Kaiju Defense Force. You know what that reminds me of? Reminds me of The Mandalorian. Because he is forced to raise a Force-sensitive child, a Jedi child, or a child that had been part of the Jedi, and is to take him to a Jedi. And the Jedi were the enemy of the Mandalorians. So, doesn't that seem similar? Hey, you're going to be the new Ultraman, and you got to raise a kaiju. Hey, you're the Mandalorian, and you've got to raise a Jedi. Does seem to be a little too close, but hey, whatever, right? Also, in the news, and the last bit of news we've got for today, we want to congratulate Kat Dennings of WandaVision and her now fiancé, rocker Andrew WK, on their engagement. They announced it on social media yesterday, and we want to wish the couple all the happiness in the world and to offer up my services as an officiant for their wedding, something that I've done 3 times so far, and 2 of the couples are still married, so that's a pretty good ratio. How many other officiants have a 66% ratio? Probably not that many. All right, before we move on, let me remind you folks that if you want to know what's going on here and get on our mailing list, you just need to go over to the Comic Shopping Experience at comicshoppingexperience.com, sign up on our mailing list, and you will get just the right number of emails reminding you of what we've got going on here. You won't get inundated. Nothing worse than signing up for a mailing list and having them hit you like 6 times a day, reminding you of every piece of crap they want you to know about. That's not us. We give you just what's coming up, and then we leave you alone. The perfect number of mailers. I see someone saying that I am the #1 fan of the Dan Wickline Show. Well, I appreciate that. We'll have to get you a t-shirt or something, or a cup. Well, thank you, Jen. All right, getting on to, let's see. Also, by the way, I should remind you, we have an Instagram. We put up pictures of all the crazy people that work here. We're, again, reminding you, if you're not a mailing list person, but you're an Instagram person, on Instagram, we are at the understore. This is a shopping thing, so understore makes kind of sense, but it's actually the underscore EXP1. That is our Instagram. You can follow us there, and you get to see all the people, the pictures of the people that work here. I think I'm talking a little too fast today. Need to just kind of slow down a little bit. Slow down. Take it easy. It's been a hectic, busy day, and I am happy to be here with you guys talking comics and whatnot. If you tuned in last night, you would have seen me talk about The Black Knight, the first night that we did the upcoming movie Venom, which that trailer, the more I look at it, the more interesting it becomes, and how I think this is going to be a lead into getting Spider-Man in that world. I think there's a reason that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be released between Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and the Morbius film. And I think that by the time, I don't think we're going to have a Spider-Man in this universe by the end of Venom, or maybe hinted at, but we will by the end of No Way Home. Because there's definitely homages to Spider-Man or references to Spider-Man in Morbius, including the appearance of Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes, a picture or a poster of Spider-Man on the wall that says murderer, and bus ads from the Daily Bugle asking where Spider-Man is. So something has to happen between the two. And the only thing, unless they put it together in Venom, Let There Be Carnage, will be Spider-Man No Way Home. And we know that's involved with the multiverse. So there's a good chance that by the time we are done with that movie, Spider-Man and Venom will be in the same universe. Which Spider-Man? That's always a possibility. When you have multiple Spider-Mans, you could go different ways. Maybe Tobey Maguire ends up the Spider-Man in the Venom universe. Maybe Andrew Garfield comes back. Maybe we get a different Spider-Man altogether. Maybe it's Miles Morales Spider-Man. Something to think about. All right. I know that Jerry is watching, and I believe we need to do a commercial at the halfway point. Still figuring out the schedule here. But I think I got a little time to go on. So, there's Jerry. All right, you know what, Jerry? Let's go ahead and do a commercial now, and then I'll come back and I'll focus on the Bad Batch, Star Wars: The Bad Batch, for the rest of the show. But this is a good chance to take a quick commercial break. So take it away, Jerry.
Big news is on the way. 2 brand new sales shows and 2 classic shows are returning to the experience this week. Sign up for our mailing list to learn more.
Do you like ghost stories? I hope so. My name is Lawrence, a husband and a father. In life, I was a professor of religious literature and history. If I was still alive, I guess I'd still be all of those things. But I'm not. I'm dead. Like I said, ghost story. Believe me, I never imagined I'd be here, helping others heal in the afterlife. So where is here? This is the scene. It's the middle place where souls must confront the traumas of their past. Here I lead souls away from their demons that haunt them. I must also defend these lost souls from others who would prey on them. To do this, I use the power of the Staff of Truth to help them break free. It isn't easy. Clearly, they need help and hope. And that's where I come in. I am a guide of souls. I'm the shepherd.
Hey, everybody, welcome back, and thank you, Jerry, for that commercial break. This is something new for me. Up until recently, up until today, I haven't been able to see the commercials. My screen usually just goes dead, and then I have to wait till Kyle pops back on and gives me the hi sign, and then I come back in. Now I'm actually able to see and hear everything thanks to a change of browser. So I got to see that commercial for Scout Comics, The Shepherd. And I got to say, that looks really good to me. I like the concept of having to help the lost souls in the afterlife and go up against the people going after them and keeping their demons at bay. And that artwork looks really good. When on Tuesday nights, Kyle and I do the in-stores this week, every week. And I always pull in the books from Marvel and DC and some of the bigger companies, and Kyle pulls in the smaller publishers. I mean, it's not knocking them. It's just the way it is. And Scout is one of his favorites. Scout, Behemoth, There's a couple that he always pulls from, and I haven't had a chance to check out Mushroom Scout, but that book looks particularly good to me. I think that's really neat looking. So I'm going to be looking for that next time I go to the comic shop. All right, let's get on to our main topic, which will be tonight. We're going to get a new episode. I say tonight, by the way. I am on the West Coast, so it's West Coast bias. In my mind, everything is West Coast. So when I give times for the show, it's 6 p.m. or it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon, not the 5 o'clock or 9 o'clock on the East Coast, because I've always lived on the West Coast. So for me, the Disney Plus shows drop midnight West Coast. So Thursday night, midnight, I get a new show. Now, most everybody else, they go to bed. I stay up, I watch the show. Now, if you're on the East Coast and it's 3 a.m., and you're probably going to catch it the next morning or in the afternoon, but there's a good chance that someone is going to spoil it, because us guys on the West Coast stay up till midnight, we watch it, and then while I do my best to post as spoiler free as possible, just good episode, hey, there's an after credit scene, stuff like that, there are other people that come out like after the WandaVision, the 8th episode of WandaVision went, oh my God, White Vision. It was the White Vision. We knew it. Yeah. And that kind of spoils it for everybody else. So first thing, if you are watching Disney Plus, there ought to be a moratorium. Unless there's something like an actual spoiler show, don't post spoilers. Give people a chance to see the show. And we're going to get it coming up with Loki. We're going to get Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, depending on where you are. You'll be getting Loki. So don't post Loki spoilers. Give it at least 24 hours. Give at least a chance for people to get up the next morning or get off work the next day and watch the show. Because not everybody can stay up till midnight or 3 a.m. or get up early enough the next morning to watch it before they go to work. So to suddenly post, oh my God, Lady Loki, it's Lady Loki, you just ruin it for people. And it's not nice because it wasn't ruined for you. So please, on stuff like this, no spoilers. Now, I am going to talk spoilers for the previous 2 episodes, but they've been out for a week, so I think it's okay. And if you aren't watching, you should. I won't say I'm loving this series. Now, I'll be honest. I'm not necessarily a fan of the Clone Wars. I didn't watch it when they first aired. I got Disney Plus for The Mandalorian and watched it, loved it. Saw that there was these other shows on there, started going through them. So made it through the first season of The Clone Wars and part of season 2 so far. And it's decent. It's good stuff, but it's still... It has that weekly animated series feel where it doesn't necessarily feel like a big drama. It feels like little self-contained episodes, which is fine. I mean, they were like 2-parter episodes, I think what they were, or a couple-parter episodes. But it was hard to get the full big through line. And maybe as I stuck with the series, it will get more so. I didn't get that feeling off of the pilot episode of The Bad Batch, but I did get it off of the second episode. The pilot episode really drew me in. Now, I know these characters are from the Clone Wars series, but they're not from deep into the Clone Wars series. They were introduced in the final season. I think the last handful of episodes is what I'm told. I still need to go back and watch them. But it's basically a group of clones that were modified and enhanced to specialize in certain areas where they consider themselves to be kind of the rejects. They're not. They were experimented on to be specialists, but they have that mindset that they're the rejects, and that's something they need to get over. And let's see if I can remember all the names of them. There's Hunter, the leader. Then there's Wrecker, who's the big giant guy with a lot of strength. There's Tech, who I bet you can guess what he's good at. There's Echo, who isn't actually one of them. He was a regular clone that got experimented on by the Empire, or the Separatists, or whatever they're referred to in the series. I believe it's Separatist. And now he's different. And there's Crosshairs. Crosshairs is a sharpshooter. Very straightforward. And we're introduced to a new clone in the series named Omega. And she's a little girl. And she is also one of the ones that was experimented on and modified to have a specialty. And it isn't until the second episode that somebody actually tells them, look, you guys aren't rejects. You aren't mistakes. You are enhanced in certain areas. And so is this girl. And now you've got to find out what area she was enhanced in. And I'm going to get to what fan theories are, because I think I love fan theories. I love the community getting together and talking and coming up with their ideas. I think that's great. I am an absolute fan of that. As long as you don't get too attached to your ideas, which like what happened with WandaVision. People were so certain that Quicksilver was the introduction of the X-Men to the Marvel Universe or the MCU, and that Mephisto was coming. And I was on board on the Mephisto train. I was, but that's because I've read the comics where all this happened, and I believed that Mephisto was behind Agatha. Might still be. Might be Mephisto, might be any one of the other demonic or cosmic creatures like Chthon or Nightmare or Shumagora. Those are all possibilities that we'll get in Doctor Strange, but that just weren't introduced yet. So it really comes down to where you think the kid's voice is coming from at the end of WandaVision. But my point being that anybody who got upset at the series because their fan theory didn't come across, that's something you got to kind of look into yourself, because these are shows that they're writing their scripts for and we are enjoying. We can like or dislike, but we shouldn't try to dictate to them what it is they're doing, because that they're not going to listen anyway. And if we ruin our own enjoyment of something we should be loving because we want it to go a certain direction, that's on us. So don't do that. Take your fan theories with a grain of salt. And I kind of think of that with the current Bad Batch, is that there's some speculation out there that I think may get people going in the wrong direction. Or it may be that I just don't want it to go that direction, which makes me just as bad. So we'll see. But the first episode was 76 minutes long, which was a good chunk of time. It introduced us to all the characters. So if you hadn't watched the previous episodes, you pretty much figure out who these guys are quickly. They introduced us to Omega, and Tarkin shows up. So we get that flashback to a very long-standing Star Wars character. And it turns out, I mean, this takes place, well, it opens with that radio or that propaganda style opening that they did through the Clone Wars, because this is supposed to be the official end of the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars are over, the war is over, and the Emperor Palpatine has announced or has called for Order 66, and they have absolutely gone out and wiped out most of the Jedi. I mean, we see it in the very first episode. We see the clones turning on, I cannot think of the Jedi's name, but she's the master of Caleb, who turns out to be Kanan from Star Wars Rebels. So you've got that connection right there. And we see how he then goes into hiding because his master's been killed. But we get that in the very first few minutes. So any Rebel fans out there, you got your link right there. Well, from there, this team goes back to the Camino, and we see that they don't really blend with the other clones, and the other clones are like, yeah, the Empire, we're in, we're good. Yep, we're going with the Empire now. All right, Galactic Empire, we're good. And the Bad Batch are like, wait, what? Clone Force 99 is just not. It's like, this sounds like a bad thing, and part of their enhancement took away the effectiveness of the control chip in the back of their heads. Well, on most of them. Throughout the whole first episode, they seem to be fighting with Crosshair, who is more about, look, we are supposed to be following orders. This is what we're supposed to be doing. But he's still loyal to Clone Force 99. Well, they start running these guys through tests, and Tarkin wants to see what they can do. So they get live fire tests and actually have to perform against, like I said, live fire. And this doesn't make them happy, of course, but Tarkin decides to send them on a mission, and the mission's a test. They're sent off to kill some separatists, and you find out it's just women and children and a few men, and it's Saul Guerrera. And these guys, used to be part of the good guys, and now they're on the other side, and it's really confusing to them. And even though Crosshairs protests, they let them go. But of course, they're being spied upon, and then they come back and they get tested, and you find out that only Crosshair is. They put them all into a cell with Omega, because they've decided they need to get out of there. Obviously, this is not going the way it's supposed to go. They're going to go back to Camino, grab Omega, who is a clone like them, and get the hell out of there. Well, Crosshairs is fighting against them, and when they go back, they're expected. They get put into cells with Omega. So that kind of solved half the problem right there. They don't have to go looking for her. They put them in the cell right with them. Wasn't that lovely? And of course, this leads to them doing a jailbreak, but they take Crosshair and they figure that his chip is still working enough that they can amplify it and get him back under control. And they do this. So you end up with the team trying to leave with Omega, with Crosshairs now hunting them. So from a dramatic standpoint, that is really good storytelling, in my opinion. I came out of that thinking, okay, so we got this team on the run. You've got this kid they have to figure out. They've got one of their own is hunting them. We're set in a world right after Order 66, so there's chaos all over the place. The Empire is now spreading. The Galactic Empire is now spreading and changing everything. And it's these guys dealing in an era that we haven't really seen much of. I mean, we've seen a little bit of it in Solo and Rogue One. And of course, New Hope picks up from there. But the first days after the Empire took over and after Order 66, that's an era we really haven't played with much. So I was really looking forward to it. And I think they did a really great setup. And then the second episode came, and it felt more, I don't want to say monster of the week, but task of the week, which I was hoping we weren't going to get. I don't look at Disney Plus series, and this could just be because Mandalorian and WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldiers have been at such a level that I'm expecting everything to be at that level. This was, hey, we're going to go to this planet and check in with Cut, a clone that actually deserted and started building a life for himself. And he's going to give us some pointers, but there's never really any pointers that he gives. And we find out that, you now need a chain code. You need to have like a number. You need to be registered as part of the Galactic Empire to go anywhere, to travel, to do anything. So they're starting to track everybody. And of course, this is a problem because Cut and his family are off the grid, and they need to get him off the planet before the Empire takes over. Well, they've got a ship. All they had to do was get on the ship and leave. But they don't. Cut says he needs to get on a transport. And then there's this whole thing about them using their own ship to get it impounded so they can get access to terminals that they could then get the discs and the chain codes so they could make these chain codes for Cut and his family. And you know what? Maybe at that point, they'd be automatically, they'd have these chain codes and they'd be able to travel freely. And maybe it's a long-term solution, but they really don't explain that much in the episode. So it doesn't come across that way. And that's part of the problem I have. But then there's this whole thing about Hunter talking about leaving Omega with Cut and his family. And suddenly this felt like the episode of The Mandalorian where he stops at that little planet that had the ATST on it, and where he meets Cara Dune, and they try to protect that little village, and he's thinking about leaving the kid at the village, which didn't make any sense to me at the time because, well, why would he leave the kid at the village if they've got that little tracking fob? They're going to be able to find him there, and which they do. So why would he think the kid would be safe there? Anyway, so it felt like that he needed that reassurance episode, or that episode that makes Hunter realize that Omega is actually part of the team and belongs with them. And yeah, that's kind of what it does. But again, it didn't feel like it moved anything forward other than the relationship between Omega and the team. We got no more about Crosshair. We got no forward building. We have no idea what these guys are going to do. It was more like, hey, let's check in with this guy that we met in the Clone Wars, and it'll show us that we need to keep the kid. And we'll get to show how the Empire is changing. That's what the second episode feels like. And in a way, it's my knock on Dave Filoni, which I don't actually mean to have a knock on Dave Filoni. I think what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have done with The Mandalorian is brilliant. And I think it's them working together that has made it work. I think Filoni knows Star Wars, knows how to tug the heartstrings, knows how to piece all the big things together. I think Jon Favreau knows storytelling a little better. He knows how to craft a season, how to craft an overall story. Because I don't think they looked at The Mandalorian, just like I don't think they look at WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldiers as TV series. I think they look at them as long features that's broken over X number of parts. It's like doing the 3-act story play broken in episodes airing at different times. I think that's what they're doing with the Disney Plus series, and I think that works amazingly well. We're seeing it in those shows. They've got one big story they're telling, and they break it down. With The Bad Batch, it just feels like another season of the Clone Wars, where I'm not sure what their overall story arc is, what they're trying to accomplish here. We knew pretty early on in season 2 of The Mandalorian that his job was to get the kid to a Jedi. We learned that pretty straightforward. We learned that at the end of season 1. Season 2 is all about him getting the kid to a Jedi. That was the story arc. That was Mandalorian season 2. We don't have that with The Bad Batch. We have them trying to figure out the world. Maybe that'll become more clear, but we're also looking at 14 episodes. So there's 12 more episodes in this series, which to me means that we're going to get more episodes like this. We're going to get more episodes that feel like one and done, that feel like the quest of the week. These are the side quests, but we don't know what the overall quest is, which is a great thing for gamers. You go into a new area like in Warcraft, and there's the big story arc of that area, and then there's all these little side quests, and people are like, hey, can you take this to this guy over here, and he's a blacksmith, and then, so you go to the blacksmith guy, and he goes, oh, yeah, can you take these back for me? And you're thinking, wow, these are some lazy-ass NPCs. But it's to, we got to build the world. We got to explain this. We got to explain that. And that's what these side quests do. That's how that second episode felt. And it seemed really early in a series or in a season to get to that. I know there was some complaints about it in the second season of Mandalorian, how it seemed like he kept getting distracted. And people were complaining about that very early on in the season, which is funny because episode 4 was the last one people said, oh, this feels like a side quest week. Well, yeah, but it's a side quest where he learned that Moff Gideon was still alive, that they're trying to clone things. I mean, there was a huge info dump at the end there, and it set up the back half of the season. The episode before that was all about Bo-Katan. So the only real, what felt like a filler episode was the Ice Spider episode. And that introduced us to, Paul Sun Lee, the X-Wing pilot, Carson, yeah. Anyway, so we got that character, and that character turned out to be important, and also was a bait and switch. So when we see the TIE fighters show up at the end in season, the episode 8, when we see the TIE fighters show up at when they're trapped in the bridge, you at first think, "Oh, is it Carson? Is that it?" And it's just to give you that momentary hesitation that we've established seeing X-Wings in the season. So when one shows up, it's not automatically, oh my God, it's Luke. It's, you get that moment of, oh, that could be Filoni and Paul's characters, or it could be this. It could be, you get all these options because we're now used to seeing X-Wings because they showed up in episode 2. He shows up again later on in episode 4. You start seeing the guy. So then suddenly an X-Wing shows, oh, it's a lone X-Wing. It just must be Carson Tevye. And no, it's not. So I think that was clever. And that's what makes that episode important. And that even though he's a Mandalorian and kind of wanted because of what he did with the jailbreak, there are people that saw what he did and he's not necessarily in trouble. There isn't that thing, at least yet, that we've seen in The Bad Batch. So for the second episode of a series, the first season, that seems really out there. That seems like, okay, this is going to be a long season. It's not going to be fast-paced. It's not going to be a tight, cohesive season. It's going to have these little side trips. And I'm hoping we don't get too many of them. I would like to see the show be a tight season because that's what I've come to expect from Disney+. Tonight's episode, leaks are saying it's a 28-minute episode, which is shorter than the first two. The first one, of course, was 76 minutes, but it was the premiere. The second one was 31 minutes. So it comes in right around that right range, but that seems like a short episode. And I also get the impression that it's a two-parter, that it and the next one tie together. And maybe they're following that format too, which they seem to do on the Clone Wars, which was, 2 episode sets. and because we get maybe the cut episode was a filler because the premiere was so big, and needed to set things up. Episode 2, let's just touch base, and then we'll start doing the stories going forward. I'm hoping that's the case. We got to see what they're going to do, where they're going to hide, how they're going to survive. I mean, they don't blend. These are not characters that blend well, so it's going to be hard for them to blend in. Wrecker's huge. Hunter has that big thing on his face. Echo now has that Lobot ring around the back of his head. And Tech is probably the most normal guy. He could put a suit on and probably blend. But so that's what's going on with the Bad Batch. So I don't know exactly what tonight's episode is going to bring. And that's the other thing that bugs me is that, again, we're not looking at a big overall story yet. Maybe we're going to get to that, but there isn't a whole lot of buildup. There isn't a whole lot of anticipation. I don't know if I'll stay up till midnight. I may just wait until first thing in the morning and turn it on when I get up, because I don't have that anticipation that I had with The Mandalorian or with WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier. Which is sad, because I think that's part of what drives Disney Plus. I think that's part of what makes these series so popular is there's that, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And we didn't see it a lot in the first couple episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier. It was a little bit slower of a takeoff. But it got there. And by, I was really enjoying it. But I know some people that first couple episodes in were like, yeah. And then they get to episode 4 and they're like, oh my God, I'm in. And then 4, 5, and 6 were huge. I'm hoping that the Bad Batch starts to go down that path. But like I said, there is fan speculation starting. And what I've been hearing is what people are thinking that Omega's, what's a good way to put it? Omega's specialty is, what Omega was bred for, where, Hunter is a tracker and stuff like that. Tech is a tech savvy guy. Wrecker is strength. Crosshairs is sniper ability. What is Omega? Well, Omega, people seem to think that Omega is them trying to make a force sensitive clone. And I really hope that's not the case. Star Wars is a huge universe. There is so much going on in the series. There are so many different types of stories to tell. You don't need to go to the Force on every story. It doesn't need to be about the Jedi and the Sith and all of that. Mandalorian was supposed to be about a Mandalorian, and they snuck in Grogu. So the Force becomes part of it. I don't see why they need to do that again. There are so many unique characters and stories. You could do an entire series about a Trandoshan. You could do series about the Hutts and the battles for the Hutts. The Hutt rankings. You could have a war between the different guilds, and there are so many things you could do. Following this group of, you could make this like the A-Team. It's literally could be the Star Wars equivalent of the A-Team. These guys are traveling around the country on the run, but they stop and help people all the time. And maybe that's what they're going to do with it. But they don't need to make Omega a Jedi. Doesn't need to make her force sensitive. We did get a glimpse of her shooting and having never picked up a gun before. So maybe she was trained to be an assassin. Now, see, that to me would be a great storyline. Here you have this young, innocent girl who has like Black Widow style assassin skills. That would be great. I'd love to see that. I'd be on board for that. I just don't want them to go down the same rabbit hole that they've been going down so many times. It doesn't need to always be about the Force and the Jedi, you know. And they do great stories that way. I'm loving the current comic series and the High Republic series. And one of my favorite things about it is we have a Trandoshan Jedi. That to me is fascinating as hell, because you've got a society that's all about killing and keeping track of their kills, and you make this guy a Jedi, which is all about peace and helping people. I find that fascinating. I love the character of Skier. So I'm not saying they can't go down that path. I'm saying that they don't always have to, and I'm hoping in this case they don't. I would like to see the Bad Batch be the A-team of the Star Wars universe, which means that there'll be a montage building scene in every episode. And nobody will actually get killed. They'll all get up and stagger afterwards. Yeah, I'm good with that. I am absolutely good with that. Yeah. Hey, Jerry, how much time do I got left? I see we're live at 57 minutes. Do I have 3 minutes or less? I got 3 minutes. Okay. Well, folks, that is going to wrap it up for today. The Bad Batch airs tonight at midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern on Disney Plus. I will be back on the Experience on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe, with my show Pop Go the Writers, where myself and Paul Story, I'm not sure which episode we're airing here. I do it live on my own YouTube channel, and then we re-air it here on Saturdays, so you can watch that. And then I will be back next week on Tuesday, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern here on The Experience for the Dan Wickline Show. Thursdays, I'll be back for that at 6 p.m. Eastern or Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And Tuesday nights, I join Kyle Northrup for In Stores This Week, where we talk about the latest books coming into the comic shops. So, yeah, you can't get away from me on this channel. I am everywhere. So please hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, hit the like button. We'd appreciate it. Please join our mailing list over at the comicshoppingexperience.com. Also, join us on Instagram at _EXP1. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Jen, for being my #1 fan of the show. I appreciate that greatly. And I hope you all have a lovely, lovely evening and have a great weekend. But stick around with the Experience. We got some great shows tomorrow night, great shows over the weekend. Nick will be around talking our art and original art. And Nick's always fun to watch. So stick around to the Experience. Thank you for joining us this evening. Have a great night. And thank you, Jerry.